Woody Page, Justin Tinsley, Monica McNutt. Bubbles, brackets, baseball, and the Brooklyn Nets putting together the plane while they're in the air flying it. Why the rest of the league should be very afraid. Let's go.
Very afraid.
Got ugly in Philly.
Very afraid.
Ooh, buddy.
If somebody was getting on a plane tomorrow, maybe I shouldn't be talking about putting together the plane while you're in the air flying. Another one. Down goes another one. Conference tournaments have been wild going into Selection Sunday. SEC's number one Auburn, upset by Texas A&M this afternoon. Big Ten's number one Illinois, dropped by Indiana this afternoon. Who's got to love their chances getting in now. Last night, Baylor, a presumptive number one seed, goes down early in the Big 12. Arizona, maybe Crease's injury puts them in question. Where are we right now? 49 hours away from the selection show. Woody Page, I turn to you. What is certain? What's still up in the air? What do we make of all these number ones getting run? What are you laughing at?
You're coming to me first?
Woody, I go to you for chalk, all right? Tell me about the chalk.
The only thing certain about college basketball after this weekend is the uncertainty. And I felt this all along that we have a 3-seed deep tournament. What I mean by that is I think the third seeds are just as good as the first seeds, and we're finding that out. I think when you talk about the blue bloods, like Kentucky, Villanova, those type of teams that are going to be second or third seeds unless Kentucky moves up, they have as much chance, like Duke, they have as much chance to do a turnaround after what happened to them at the end of the season. I just think that of all the tournaments that we've seen over the last 8 or 10 years, this one is the most balanced and the one that basically is going to give us a champion that maybe we didn't suspect.
So there you go, Woody Page.
Gonzaga.
That's the argument that the seeds don't even matter going into Selection Sunday. I'm here for that. Justin Tinsley specifically, Baylor losing. Do they lose a 1 seed? Auburn losing. Illinois losing. Do they lose a 1 or 2 seed?
You know, I want to get to that, but I have but one rule when it comes to March Madness. And being that I am an expert bracketologist, if my bracket can make it to happy hour by the first Thursday of the tournament, I'm playing with house money from there on out. In other words, I have absolutely no clue what's going on.
Well, thank you for telling that right from the start. Okay.
No, but in terms of Baylor, I still think they get the number 1 seed because I'm not convinced Kansas is going to beat TCU. They just lost to them 10 days ago. And I think Kentucky wins the SEC tournament, which brings me to a bold prediction. Christian Laettner hit this shot in the tournament 30 years ago. Perhaps you heard of it.
Yeah,
that was in Philly. One of the regions is in Philly. If Kentucky gets the number 1 seed, I promise you, Duke will get the number 2 seed. That is going to happen. It's going to be pure madness, and I just hope
so
my
you're
bracket
predicting
makes it to Friday.
storylines. All right.
Yes.
Can I get an answer to a question here? Monica McNutt, did Baylor lose their 1 seed with the loss yesterday? Did Auburn and Illinois lose their chance at 1 seeds?
Yes. Both teams lost their 1 seeds in my mind, Tony. Didn't we just do this? Matter of fact, I think it might have been the last time I was on this show where we had the conversation about 7 of the top 10 teams losing that weekend. And it didn't mean much outside of pointing out the parity in the field this year. I do think that Baylor lost its 1 seed because it's not that much different from what Kansas has been able to do, and they're still alive in the tournament. When you look at quad 1 wins, Baylor has 11-4 and Kansas is 10-5. So they're very similar. Baylor lost their 1 seed. I'm putting Kansas on my 1 line.
Ramona Shelburne.
Well, I mean, how much do conference tournaments matter? We can decide if everybody loses, then they don't matter at all. But historically, they matter because since 1985, no team that has failed to reach the semifinals of their conference tournament has won a national title.
There you go, Ramona Shelburne. That's
now,
what I'm here for.
The committee think they're going to win next week.
All right. So, can I get your top 4 seeds here, Woody Page? Give me the ones. Just dabble in
Gonzaga, I think Gonzaga's number 1. Then I would say Arizona, despite the loss of Kriisa, their outstanding guard to injury. I also think Kentucky moves up, as I mentioned, and I would put in there Villanova.
You like Villanova, so they would have to win the tournament. Kentucky, I guess, would have to win their conference. Tinsley, your ones?
I answered the question, but I'll answer it again. It's Gonzaga, it's Baylor, it's Arizona, and it's Kentucky.
Monica?
Wow, look at this guy. So much swag today. I've got Gonzaga, Arizona. I'm going Kentucky. Oscar Tshiebwe's been tremendous, and they've got great guards. Ty Washington's phenomenal. And I'm rounding out with Kansas.
And Ramona Shelburne.
All right, I'll go to Gonzaga, Arizona. I think Kentucky, if they win their conference tournament, and Baylor.
So you have Baylor
quad
still
one.
getting the 1 seed
Yeah.
because you like the Big 12. But you don't think they can win the
I'm gonna give
tournament
Monica
because you
the
just
points.
said
They had the most number 1 wins.
the quad wins, yeah, okay. But the stat you just gave is amazing, Ramona. You're kind of going against it by putting Baylor as a 1 seed, but I'll allow it because no team, they're going for the defending their national championship, but no team that went out before the semis of their conference tournament has won in 37 years. Incredible. We've been Horn. We'll move on. Let's talk NBA now. The boos for Ben Simmons. Did they go too far last night? The Nets, did they go too far last night, mauling Philadelphia? This was never a game. Durant, Irving, the Seth Curry revenge match. No one had that one in the preview yesterday. And just a rough night for James Harden. What a colossal L on national television for the Philadelphia 76ers. Whether this changes the way you feel about Philly, about Brooklyn, about the Eastern Conference, about everything. Ramona Shelburne, around the horn to you.
It doesn't change the way I feel. It reminds me that Brooklyn has Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving when they can play every game, which is not a sure thing, depending on what happens with the mayor of New York. They are incredible. And I think we were focusing on the wrong thing here. The ticket prices in Philly were the highest they've been in 10 years, including playoff games, by the way. Just because people wanted to boo Ben Simmons when he picked up the balls and went out of bounds or when he was warming up. You know what people wanted to see? Kevin Durant loved those boos. Like I was in Oklahoma City when he went back for his revenge game or his homecoming game. He internalized, remember the cupcake shirts? Like Kevin Durant just channeled all the boos and had that kind of performance. Kyrie Irving actually played great defense on James Harden. And James Harden, of the worst shooting percentage in games against your former team, James Harden now has 2 of them.
Wow. Good stats today from Ramona Shelburne. Woody, what are you laughing at?
Yeah, I'll give you a stat. Harden went to Philadelphia because he thought he'd improve his chances of winning a championship. Guess what? That's not happening. He left the team that's a lot better than Philadelphia.
That's it. You needed one game to see it. This is their first loss since the trade, and that was it.
I'll give you another stat. Embiid and Harden last night couldn't have hit the Liberty Bell with a hammer.
Right.
The way they played the
Not
game.
sure these
That
are
was
exactly
awful.
stats, but I hear what you're saying.
Well, you want me to give you the stat? They made 10 out of 32 shots.
There you go, Woody Page. All right.
There you go, Woody.
So you're reading a lot into this one game.
Yes, I am, because I saw a team in New York with Curry.
Brooklyn.
I think offered them a great energy burst. I think he becomes the third guy on that team. I think the mayor of New York, Ramona, that you brought up, that by the end of the month they will have worked out the sanctions about in regard to playing without the vaccine. So I think that even though he's now scheduled to play in only 5 games of the next 15, Kyrie Irving is going to get past that very quickly. I believe that I saw a team in the Nets last night that is deeper and better than the Philadelphia team that we saw last night in Philadelphia, by the way.
Monica McNutt.
A big asterisk put on the depth that the Nets have. That was the thing that stood out to me. Whether you call Seth Curry's performance a revenge game or not, when you really look at the tape, what he's able to do off of ball screens and as a shooter, he can do whether Kyrie is on the floor or not. And so the swing pieces of Curry and Drummond, to me, were one of the things that stood out big in that game for the Nets. When it comes to the Sixers, I just find it odd that at this point, James Harden would take it so cavalierly that he can just flip the switch as if history says that he shows up on big-time stages. I was wildly disappointed in his performance.
Well, I mean, this is interesting because Harden has had multiple triple-doubles in his first game with a new team. But he has also struggled, as Ramona just said, in his first game against his old team. And when it's all under the microscope, Justin Tinsley, do you find yourself questioning Philadelphia now?
You have to have questions. It's not saying that they can't fix it and, eventually win the title. I'm not predicting that. But we all know all 82 games are not built the same. We knew this game was special from the moment that trade went down. And last night was the most anticipated DNP, but that turned into scary hours, almost 0 to 100. Look, Kyrie's defense on James Harden was great last night. He was 1 of 8. Seth Curry reminded Philly what they traded and what they did not have last night. It was somebody who could make a shot. But look, it all boils down to this. In the MVP race, we've been talking about Ja Morant. We've been talking about Giannis. We've been talking about DeMar, Embiid, and Joker. But look, KD was in that conversation before he got hurt.
There you go.
And if last night proved anything, there is not a player in the league that I would take to win me a big game when it mattered, especially on the road, especially in an environment like that. KD walked into a terror dome last night, and they couldn't boo after the third quarter, even before the third quarter. Like, he was jarring with Joel Embiid. It would be sadistic if it wasn't so beautiful.
Monica, you want to add something?
That game, okay, the Sixers will play better, but again, the depth of the net stands out. I will add, though, when you really look at it, Tobias Harris's production has taken a deep dive since James Harden joined that roster. If he's supposed to be part of that big three, he's going to have to be a guy that can hit shots consistently to help space that floor if that pick and roll or ISO ball is going to work. And so the depth to me of the Nets is what really stood out.
Ramona, can I get a little bit more on James Harden? Because it defies logic that he could be so unstoppable and then so just the exact opposite in certain moments.
Well, look, he has a reputation of not showing up in big games, especially late in the playoffs. And afterwards, he lived up to his reputation because there's photos of him on TMZ out with Travis Scott and Lil Baby out of the club. I mean, it's like I've seen this movie before.
There it is.
How do you think that goes over in Philadelphia right now?
Not well, although they still love him. He's got a little honeymoon.
They're back. It's been 24 hours. I'm still giggling over the faces coming back magically of the players on MLB's page. Who won? Who lost? Who cares? I mean, it's been 99 days. Who's getting Freddie Freeman? That's what I want to know. Who's getting Carlos Correa? Chris Bryant? What's the story, Trevor Story? And there's a deep dive in the left, and Castellanos is also a free agent. 200 free agents, and the season starts in 3 weeks. Woody Page, what happens now? Where do we go from here?
Well, we're going to have a whirlwind of deals in the next several days.
Bring it!
And a lot of it's going to concentrate on pitching and trades players from the Oakland A's. For instance, they want to get rid of their team. But I think what has to happen here is the two sides have to come together and try and make baseball a better game. On the field and off the field. That's what they need to do. The players won, but the owners didn't lose. They got their 12-team playoff, and they got exactly what they wanted to continue having, riches from television. So,
any residual damage, though, or do you think fans will be like, season started a week later, no big deal? Okay, sure. Justin Tinsley?
You just mentioned it, Tony. Look, the NBA markets the chaos of their free agency. The NFL definitely does it too. Baseball has this recipe. They have big names on their market. Don't be afraid to market the chaos of this. Look, you just said the season starts in less than 3 weeks. There are almost 300 free agents available. Pump this up, market it. Baseball has stars. Lean on them. You have a second lease on a new season now. Don't rest on your old laurels.
And no residual damage in your eyes either. Season starts a week later. Fans pick up right where they left off.
No, I don't think so.
Monica McNutt?
Justin, that's a great idea, but that's far too progressive to expect from the MLB, my friend. And I would just say that the 12-team playoff thing, 40% of your teams are in the playoffs. Like, it seems like a lot there, but it's always good when you see the players get the money they want. The plus $20 million in terms of the competitive tax balance, and the floor comes up in terms of the minimum salary for players in the league. So let's play ball. I don't think that this was worth the lockout, but if you were a fan of baseball, all indicators show that you'll probably still be a fan. So yeah, they'll be back.
You do know half the NBA teams basically make the playoffs too. Monica McNutt.
But not really. It's not the
It's
not
not.
the
They
same.
just expanded to have a play-in game
It's not
that
the
is.
same. The play-in is different.
And of course,
It's
that's
different.
the NBA.
And we-
MLB is just MLB. Yeah, drop the. Shelburne, how about you?
Look, I think they were on the precipice of having a lot of lasting damage if they didn't get this done in the time frame that they did. And maybe there is some lasting damage for people like Sarah Spain, who had her spring training trip ruined because she booked it early in spring training. Whereas me, who my trip is next weekend.
Oh, I'm here for this.
Cancel my hotel
I like
yet.
that. Well done.
We're good. But look, it's over. And I thought the most important thing yesterday, which was, I couldn't believe this. I've never seen this. The executive committee of players who had been in the room negotiating this was 8-0 against this deal. But when they went around to the teams, it was 26-4 of the players saying, yeah, let's just go play. So the rank and file players went against their union to say, let's play ball. And I'm so happy for baseball that they're back. I'm actually in favor of the universal DH. I think it's good for the game, and it's going to open up a lot more jobs than NL.
We'll move on. Buy or sell two trades in the AFC West added 15 Pro Bowls this weekend. I mean, what about this division? Chargers with Khalil Mack, how that deal compares to Denver adding Russell Wilson, how it stacks LA's defense now, Ramona. Again, this has got to be the most salivating division in the league right now. What are you buying? What are you selling?
Oh, this is huge for the Chargers. They were 30th in the league last year in rushing defense. Get Khalil Mack here for a second and a 6th-round pick is great. I just feel bad for the Bears. They got one great season out of him, 12.5 sacks his first year, second Defensive Player of the Year award voting, but that's it.
Woody Page, what are you laughing at?
I really feel sorry for the Bears. Poor old Bears. My goodness. If Horace Greeley were alive today, he'd say, go AFC West, young man. Go to the AFC West because you've got 4 quarterbacks that are in the top 12 in the league. No other division can say that. You got 4 competitive teams that all could be in the playoff hunt again this year, and the Denver Broncos are even relevant again. I think there's no doubt that your NFC West, Ramona, has gone downhill while the other
Well, Ramona's got 2 teams.
Wait, the ones with the Super Bowl champs?
Yeah.
With the Super Bowl?
Woody, real quick.
Wait, what?
What was the bigger move? Getting Russell Wilson in Denver or getting Khalil Mack for the Chargers of those 2 moves this week?
Definitely Russell Wilson.
I was just trying to tease Woody a little bit. Justin Tinsler, trying to get him to promote his team. Justin Tinsler, go ahead.
Look, with that division and those quarterbacks, you better be able to get pressure on them. So I love this move for the Chargers. Khalil Mack had 6 sacks in 7 games last year before getting hurt. So you pair a motivated Mack alongside Joey Bosa, and that's a recipe for disaster in all the best ways for the Chargers.
Monica.
Mack gets a chance not just to play alongside Bosa, but he's reunited with Brandon Staley, who coached him in Chicago. And I'm sure, like Justin said, he's absolutely motivated. This is legit. You got Justin Herbert on the other side. I'm not going to call the Chargers the favorite or anything, but it feels like the gap is starting to close on the Chiefs.
Right. The Mack move may be more in the Chiefs' face than the Russell Wilson move because it's going to be Mack in his face on the field. We'll move on. Buy or sell 3, Jack Eichel's return to Buffalo.